Hello, this will be a slightly longer video than usual because I thought I'd go into more detail. It's about my text editor again. I ran into a couple of bugs using it and I thought I'd make a more comprehensive, detailed analysis of the source code. It's probably not perfect source code to study, but it shows one of the projects that I'm working on. Here's the Windows version of Console Editor. I've redone these comments at the beginning here. There's name, description, compiler and compiler setting, my name, and my website. There's 16,000 strings declared here that store the text file in the computer memory. Two settings are set to 1. FPOS Y is the current line length of file, is the length of the file in terms of how many rows it has. Clear screen. A couple of the coordinates are set to 1. This handles the parameters, so file name becomes the command material. There's an L trim and an R trim to get rid of spaces, and then it goes to skip to the load. This is the top, which is the main loop. There's clear screen, and then there's this loop here which prints the contents of the array onto the screen in order using this formula. And then ftop, I don't know why I didn't just type fast top, because it would have been less confusing, but one keystroke, I guess. Locating the cursor, because locate in BASIC means it positions the cursor in sort of like a grid in the text interface, because this is a text mode program. This scans the keyboard for user input. User equals nothing, while user equals nothing, user equals in keys, and in keys gets current keys pressed, and that's just a while end. See, this is the loop here. There's delete, which deletes material from the right part of the line. So there's this stuff here which has material from the current line, and it gets manipulated, and then it returns back to the top. Page up is a way of moving through the document quickly. So if the user pressed page up, then it would do these things here, which moves around the file. And page down is pretty much the same thing, except in the opposite direction. Enter and down. So I think this keystroke here is enter, and this is down, and it goes through and moves the little bits of arithmetic that control the program. File too long, so there's a bit of testing, and this is actually a bug here. If they reach the bottom of the screen, it doesn't push down if they press enter on the rest of the file. All it does is it scrolls through, and then I had to change this around a bit so that material was handled correctly in the array, or the length of the file gets changed, because that's what this len file variable is. So F2 for save. There's no save. It's actually save as, because each time they can overwrite their original file, but they have to type the name of the file every time, because I wanted to keep the program simple, so as fewer commands as possible. Load is the opposite. See, save gets stuff from the array and puts it into a file on the disk, and load does the exact opposite using all this material here. The only thing that help function does is supplies a bit of information to the user and then returns to the top after sleep. Sleep is like if they press a button, it stalls the program until they do. So here's escape, which prompts them if they really want to exit in case they lose material that they've been working on. Backspace and left. Left moves back through the current line, and backspace gets rid of material from the left part of the current line. So this OR thing here, so they could be pressing either key and it'll still go through and try to do this stuff here, depending on the position of the the coordinate for POSX. Here's up, which if they're at the beginning of the file, it just doesn't do anything because they can't. It would cause a bad bug for it to move back before the beginning of the array. And right just moves the cursor, and I'm sure if you read this stuff here, it's pretty clear. Home moves the cursor to the home part of the current line, and end goes to the end of the current line, of course. But I found that on text files with different encoding, the end key doesn't always work in a satisfactory way. And test if they're adding too much text to the text file that the text editor can't handle. And this gets the length of the current line, and if the length is greater than 78, then it skips it, and then it goes through and does this stuff which adds material to the array, and then it goes back to ftop or fasttop. So that's pretty much how this entire program works. Here's the binary. So it's 5 kilobytes. Here's the text editor itself, and it's got a very unobtrusive interface. All it has is a cursor. And if I want to push this down a line, I just press enter here, and I could do the same here. And if I move through the document using the down key, it creates new lines according to this coordinates here and the length of the file. And there's the keys to press for the functions of the text editor. But I'll press F3 and we'll say this is the Project Gutenberg version of Aesop's Fables by Aesop. It's the complete Fables. So if I press end here, it takes me to the end of that line. If I press page down, it takes us down to the fables, where the fables are down here, the little moral stories. notice there's a big gap here because it's probably supposed to be the front page, but if I press backspace here I can drag this stuff up here and press F2. Here's the test, and as you can see here, there's much less of a gap between these two lines. And finally, here's the DOS version. Because the program is sped up by not refreshing the entire screen when you're typing, it's quite fast on a slow processor, but editing the document is slower and it's a bit choppy. And here's the DOS source code, so the program's editing itself. It might seem odd to make a DOS version in this year, 2017, but because DOS is so easy to emulate, you can run it on Linux and using DOSBox and Mac OS with DOSBox. Once again, this is Windows, but yeah, it's a little bit flickery because of the way the program works, but you can still work with it. The limitation with the DOS version is that it uses DOS's conventional memory, which is only 640K, which means that the Windows version can edit something about the length of a short novel, whereas this could only edit something about the length of a novella. And this is source code here, and one thing I found odd about this was when I used the N key, there's a bit of a bug there which isn't really all that annoying, but it just I think it's the encoding of the text file. So alright, that's the more comprehensive video about Ceditor or Ceditor, console editor, and I hope you found this interesting and have a pleasant day.